You're only young once, but you can be immature forever. The housewife is an unpaid employee in her husband's house in return for the security of being a permanent employee. Developing the muscles of the soul demands no competitive spirit, no killer instinct, although it may erect pain, barriers that the spiritual athlete must crash through. A library is a place where you can lose your innocence without losing your virginity. The pain of sexual frustration, of repressed tenderness, of denied curiosity, of isolation in the ego, of greed, suppressed rebellion, of hatred poisoning all love and generosity permeates our sexuality. What we love we destroy. We can't change the moon, but we can live in harmony with its tides, and we can make some ripples of our own. Mother is the dead heart of the family, spending father's earnings on consumer goods to enhance the environment in which he eats, sleeps, and watches the television. Perhaps catastrophe is the natural human environment, and even though we spend a good deal of energy trying to get away from it, we are programmed for survival amid catastrophe. People who are really happy do not concern themselves with convincing others of the fact. Man is jealous because of his amour propre. Woman is jealous because of her lack of it. Sadness is the matrix from which wit and irony spring. Sadness is uncomfortable and creative, which is why consumer society cannot tolerate it. Libraries are reservoirs of strength, grace and wit, reminders of order, calm and continuity, lakes of mental energy, neither warm nor cold, light nor dark. Marriage made more sense when it was indissoluble. It's the woman trying to cope with the strains of a one-parent family who will suffer most from the relaxation of the divorce laws. Perhaps women have always been in closer contact with reality than men. It would seem to be the just recompense for being deprived of idealism if the next time our governments propose to make war on a helpless civilian population we were to uncover our grief and guilt instead of our anger. How much difference might we make? Never advise anyone to go to war or to get married. Write down the advice of him who loves you, though you like it not at present. He that has no children brings them up well. The high-heeled shoe is a marvelously contradictory item. It brings a woman to a man's height but makes sure she cannot keep up with him. A garden is a kinetic work of art, not an object but a process, open-ended, biodegradable, nurturant. Like all women's artistry, a garden is the best alternative therapy. Loneliness is never more cruel than when it is felt in close propinquity with someone who has ceased to communicate. Love, love, love all the wretched can of it, masking egotism, lust, masochism, fantasy, under a mythology of sentimental postures. Security is when everything is settled, when nothing can happen to you. Security is the denial of life. Brass are a ludicrous invention, but if you make brailsness a rule, you're just subjecting yourself to yet another repression. Yet if a woman never lets herself go, how will she ever know how far she might have got? If she never takes off her high-heeled shoes, how will she ever know how far she could walk or how fast she could run? The compelled mother loves her child as the caged bird sings. The song does not justify the cage nor the love, the enforcement. Every time a woman makes herself laugh at her husband's often told jokes, she betrays him. The man who looks at his woman and says, "What would I do without you?" is already destroyed. The few men who do a hand's turn around the house expect gratitude and recognition. So sure are they that though it is their dirt, it is not their job. The sight of women talking together has always made men uneasy. Nowadays it means rank subversion. Many a housewife staring at the back of her husband's newspaper or listening to his breathing in bed is lonelier than any spinster in a rented room. Most women still need a room of their own, and the only way to find it may be outside their own home. Status ought not to be measured by a woman's ability to attract and snare a man. Energy is the power that drives every human being. It is not lost by exertion but maintained by it, for it is a faculty of the psyche. All societies on the verge of death are masculine. A society can survive with only one man, no society will survive a shortage of women. Poetry exists partly to undermine the certainties of an accepted intellectual system by opening a fissure of awareness at which the reality of the unconquered world may enter. The only causes of regret are laziness, outbursts of temper, hurting others, prejudice, jealousy, and envy. Guilt is one side of a nasty triangle. The other two are shame and stigma. This grim coalition combines to inculpate women themselves of the crimes committed against them. Every time a man unburdens his heart to a stranger, he reaffirms the love that unites humanity. Bringing up children is not a real occupation because children come up just the same, brought or not. Probably the only place where a man can feel really secure is in a maximum security prison, except for the imminent threat of release. Lovers who are free to go when they are restless always come back. Lovers who are free to change remain interesting. The bitter animosity and obscenity of divorce is unknown. Where individuals have not become Siamese twins, one may not reach the dawn save by the path of the night. Women are reputed never to be disgusted. The sad fact is that they often are, but not with men. Following the lead of men, they are most often disgusted with themselves. After centuries of conditioning of the female into the condition of perpetual girlishness called femininity, we cannot remember what femaleness is. There have been women in the past far more daring than we would need to be now, who ventured all and gained a little, but survived after all. The most unpardonable privilege that men enjoy is their magnanimity. The struggle which is not joyous is the wrong struggle. The joy of the struggle is not hedonism and hilarity, but the sense of purpose, achievement, and dignity. Germaine Greer, born January 29, 1939, was born in Melbourne to a Catholic family, the elder of two girls followed by a boy. Greer is an Australian writer and public intellectual, regarded as one of the major voices of the second wave feminism movement in the latter half of the 20th century, specializing in English and women's literature. She has held academic positions in England at the University of Warwick and Newnham College, Cambridge, and in the United States at the University of Tulsa. Greer's ideas have created controversy ever since. Her first book, The Female Eunuch 1970, made her a household name, an international bestseller and a watershed text in the feminist movement. It offered a systematic deconstruction of ideas such as womanhood and femininity, arguing that women were forced to assume submissive roles in society to fulfill male fantasies of what being a woman entailed. Greer's subsequent work has focused on literature, feminism, and the environment. She has written over 20 books, including Sex and Destiny 1984, The Change 1991, The Whole Woman 1999, and The Boy 2003. Her 2013 book, White Beach, The Rainforest Years, describes her efforts to restore an area of rainforest in the Newman-Ba Valley in Australia. In addition to her academic work and activism, she has been a prolific columnist for The Sunday Times, The Guardian, The Daily Telegraph, The Spectator, The Independent, and The Oldie, among others. Greer has received several honorary doctorates, a Doctor of Letters from York University in 1999, a Doctor of Laws from the University of Melbourne in 2003, a Doctor of Letters at Anglia Ruskin University in 2003, and a Doctor of Letters from the University of Sydney in 2005. The National Portrait Gallery in London has purchased 8 photographs of Greer, including by Brian Wharton, Lord Snowdon, and Polly Borland, and 1 painting by Paula Rego. She was selected as an Australian National Living Treasure in 1997, and in 2001 was inducted into the Victorian Honour Roll of Women. In 2011, she was one of 4 feminist Australian legends, along with Ava Cox, Elizabeth Evatt, and Anne Summers, represented on Australian postage stamps. In the UK, she was voted Woman of the Year in 1971, and in 2016, BBC Radio 4E's Woman's Hour placed her 4th on its annual Power list of 7 women who had the biggest impact on women's lives over the previous 70 years, alongside in order: Margaret Thatcher, Helen Brooke, Barbara Castle, Jayabin Desai, Bridget Jones, and Bianca